Hello and welcome, folks. We have an action-packed Eidl loan update today. Certain people are going to be able to up their Eidl loan size by 4x, 4 times larger Eidl loans. We have brand new supplemental grants for certain businesses that I wanted to cover. We have brand new Eidl grant data that I wanted to cover. And I apologize if I seem a little bit out of it. I basically pulled an all-nighter last night working on this kind of mini documentary video that I'm launching on Monday that I'm really excited about. So keep an eye open for that. I think it should be pretty darn good. So let's go ahead and get into the news here, starting off with the Eidl loan update and how certain people will be able to up their loan size again. So popping over the computer here, this is the COVID Eidl 2.0. So they're upping this to that $2 million cap that we've heard so much about. They're saying that this is set to be launched next week. So let's cover everything we know about this program so far. The interest and term stay the same, 3.75% interest for 30 years. Deferment, same, 24 months as of the original closing date for the loan. But remember, interest starts accruing even though you don't have payment. So be really careful there about not taking a loan that's larger than you need because you are paying interest on that loan even during the 24-month period. Use of funds, there's some major changes here. You can still use it for working capital, payroll, rent, maintenance, basically your day-to-day business expenses. That's the easiest way to think of how to use the Eidl loan. What do I need to operate my business on a day-to-day? You can use that for the Eidl. Normal operating expenses, that of course fits into daily operations as well. But there's some changes here. Prepayment of commercial debt or credit card debt. This is interesting because in the past, when I've reached out to the SBA, I've asked, how does this debt work? And they say that you can't refinance debt, but you could pay off certain portions of like credit card debt if it was day-to-day expenses. It was very confusing how they explained it, very vague how they explained it. And another change here is you can use it for principal and interest payments on debt owed by the federal government, which again, it's kind of like refinancing debt. So we had these rules where you can't refinance debt, you can't purchase assets with an Eidl loan, but it seems to be opening up a little bit more and more. I'll be looking forward to receiving a full fact page here so we can really break down the nitty-gritty details on everything you can spend your Eidl loan on. And of course, the cap has increased to $2 million. So how do you receive the full $2 million? Well, here is the formula. The formula hasn't actually changed, but let's explain it either way. That way you understand, hey, can I actually receive $2 million? So you take your 2019 revenue, your business revenue, you subtract your 2019 cost of goods sold, and this gives you a gross profit figure for the year of 2019. So you take that annual gross profit, you multiply that by 2, and that is the maximum loan amount. So until this change is made, that maximum loan amount is $500,000. It's now bumped up to $2 million. So the people who will be bumped up to $2 million are those who this calculation is above $500,000. So let's say you already received an Eidl loan, you got $750,000. You would now, after these changes are made, be able to update that again and get a larger loan size. Just don't ask me how long it's going to take to process that loan increase because there's a whole lot of loan increases for the first round still waiting to be processed. So it might be a while. So it's still based on 24 months of working capital. I'm not sure why they didn't update this to like 30, 36 months of working capital, but this is all the information that we have as of right now. Other than that, still a minimum credit score of 570, less than 500 employees. Same affiliation requirements here. Mirror the Paycheck Protection Program and the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and loans of more than $200,000 require a personal guarantee for all owners who own at least 20% of the business. So that's a pretty huge update for those who are on the higher end of the loan size. You're going to be able to 4x your loan size, and I know there's some of you out there watching. Now, the next update we have, the SBA announces a plan to open supplemental grants for Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. I know this doesn't apply to everyone, so I'm just going to breeze through this just in case it applies for you. So this SVO grant has a lot of funding sitting there left unallocated, and 98% of the businesses who applied have already received a decision. So that money is just sitting there, kind of like the Eidl, but that might get repurposed into the infrastructure bill, which we'll talk about in just a second here. So with this program, the SBA is actually allowing the businesses who received these grants to up the amount of the grant by 50%. And the average grant size here is about $700,000. So that means that they are receiving an additional, on average, about $350,000 in grant money from this program because there's remaining funds left. Can you imagine if they did something like this for the EIDL grants? I mean, we might as well talk about the infrastructure bill while we're at it here. So as of right now, the infrastructure bill has been passed in the Senate. There's a lot of contention going on over in the House as to whether it's actually going to pass there, but as a part of the current bill that's been passed in the Senate, yes, it pulls money from EIDL programs. And if it does, that just means less likelihood that this program gets opened up to new applicants, new businesses, and larger loan and grant sizes. But with all of this contention going on in the House, nothing is certain right now, and frankly, we're not going to know until mid to late September when the House is back in session. So I don't want you to freak out too much because it is not set in stone absolutely yet. Members of the House still have a lot of issues with the infrastructure bill. We might see a lot of changes that happen before it's actually passed. And if changes are made in the House, it has to be voted in there, sent back to the Senate where it's voted again, and then go to the President before the changes are actually made. So time will tell what exactly happens there. So now let's talk about the new EIDL grant approvals because we have two new loan reports that I've yet to cover on this channel. So let's cover both of them at the same time here. I've extrapolated all this data. Why is this so zoomed in? I've extrapolated all this data here from every single one of these reports since they've started doing these reports. Even when they don't do a report for a week, we fill in the data and do the best that we can. So starting off with the $10,000 targeted advances, 2 weeks ago we had 17,000 approvals. That was up from basically 3 weeks of very, very low approval amounts. Very low approval amounts, and then we jump back down to 16,000. We're going to pull up the graphs here in a second, and that would equate to 38 and 41 weeks to fund all remaining advances. Given the 1 million figure that the SBA has told us, that about 1 million businesses will receive this grant. I think it's actually higher, but that's what they've said in the past. The average approvals have actually gone down because of all these low weeks that we've seen recently. The $5,000 supplemental grants, these ones have been fairly flat and actually decreasing. With this one, I don't put as much weight on that because it's really just people who have already received the 10,000. So if that's slow, this is going to be slow by default. So let's look at some of these charts here. This is total $10,000 approvals. So 2 weeks ago, we were at 331,000. Now we are at 347,000. We still need more of these weeks of 50,000 plus applications in 1 week. I'm really hoping that some of the workload is being transitioned to other offices within the SBA, that these approvals are going to speed up and up over time. And I'm very hopeful that we see a few more weeks, that we see dramatic increases in weekly approvals. Here are the weekly approvals and that spike that we would love to be back at this Mount Everest spike here, and it's been pretty flat and pretty low after that, basically down in levels where we saw when the program was first opened up to applications. You remember how this was supposed to happen in 20 days? Everyone was supposed to be funded in 20 days. Like, no one even talks about that anymore because it was just anyways, here's the total $5,000 supplemental grant approvals. So 2 weeks ago, we were at 254,000. Now we're at 267,000. This one's been fairly steady with that one big jump there. And then weekly approvals here. We got two little Mount Everests in the approvals on this one. And one final update, I have opened an additional 100 spots in my email newsletter. This is still in the beta. It's still getting built out. So I'm getting a lot of feedback, and the people who are in it right now, I'm very appreciative of because they're helping me test things and send me feedback back and forth. So if you want to be part of the early access group, there's 100 additional spots that's linked down in the description. It's completely free email newsletter. Some of these topics that we've talked about have actually already been in the newsletter. So a lot of things end up happening sooner if the timing ends up video-wise, newsletter-wise. I'm very excited about that. Check it out, link down in the description. I would just like to thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week, whenever you're watching this, and I hope you have a profitable day.